Opening shot, Operation Midway Blitz's leading man will have his day in court. U.S. Customs and Border Protection Commander Gregory Bovino has been visible leading his agency's high-profile raids across the Chicago region, many times with a camera crew in tow filming highly edited action hero-style movies to advertise those raids. But it was his appearance in another video late last week that caused federal judge Sarah Ellis to call Bovino into the courtroom. The video shows Bovino tossing tear gas into a crowd that gathered in Little Village. Plaintiffs in the civil case against the Department of Homeland Security say he is directly violating Judge Ellis's orders on not using tear gas or other munitions unless under imminent physical danger and after multiple verbal warnings. Mr. Bovino claims he was hit in the head with a rock, thus the need for the tear gas. But he's visibly not wearing a helmet in that video. So there's a simple way to corroborate Mr. Bovino's story: body camera footage. That is, if he and his agents were wearing them and had them turned on, also per Judge Ellis's orders. But if visible evidence does not exist to back up Mr. Bovino's claims, should Judge Ellis question their veracity? Now, this hearing comes as CBP seems to have escalated its use of tear gas, deploying it again over the weekend in the Tony, Lakeview, and Irving Park neighborhoods after reportedly going after laborers and construction workers trespassing on private property and disrupting a nearby Halloween parade. My gut tells me Judge Ellis will have lots of questions, and given her aggressiveness in issuing orders, she might escalate the situation tomorrow by perhaps banning tear gas entirely, which shouldn't be a huge loss for federal agents. Former Chicago Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson told me he believes tear gas is ineffective as crowd control policy. Either way, it'll be good to get on-the-record answers from Mr. Bovino, whose operation has, shall we say, not been by the book. And one could argue it's hurt the efforts of ICE agents who have been doing this often dangerous work in cities like Chicago for 25 years. They've deported tens of thousands over that time, and they did it without drawing so much attention to themselves and roiling otherwise peaceful neighborhoods. Once again, all eyes on Mr. Bovino for tomorrow's testimony. Tonight, Indiana officially joins the remap fight, and U.S. House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries encourages Illinois to get in the game as well. Federal immigration agents on the hot seat as a judge calls their leader in. We speak with witnesses to this weekend's raids. And soybean slump. Trump's tariff war means tough sledding for farmers of Illinois' bumper crop. Welcome to Paris on Politics. I'm Paris Schutz. Indiana Republicans, that is, bow to the pressure from the White House as that state's governor, Mike Braun, has now called a special session for a mid-district remap that could net up to 2 more GOP seats in that state. It comes as U.S. House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries urges Illinois to act as well to cancel out Indiana's move. Jeffries is in Springfield today meeting with House Speaker Chris Welch after a meeting in Chicago with African-American members of Congress this morning. Jeffries says Illinois has a role to play in combating Trump's moves.
Democrats have made clear that we are going to respond, as is being done in California right now, appropriately, immediately, and forcefully, to ensure that the national congressional map is as fair as it can possibly be, so that we allow for free and fair elections and the American people can decide, not Donald Trump.
The move comes as Indiana Republican Governor Mike Braun has called a special session to consider a Republican-favored remap. And on day one of Illinois political candidates filing their nominating petitions to run in the 2026 midterms. Candidates like Governor Pritzker were up early to get their paperwork in. The governor did not commit one way or another on a mid-decade remap, but says it doesn't have to happen overnight.
And so that's something I think we're all going to have to look at during the process here, but it doesn't have to happen during veto session. It could happen after that. But right now, I think there's just a lot of conversation going on.
Potential new maps could net Democrats a pickup of 1 seat, giving them a possible 15-2 advantage in Congress. State Senator Willie Preston, who is running for Congress in the South Side 2nd District, says he'll only sign on if a new map doesn't take away black political representation.
We have to fight fire with fire when necessary, but if it dilutes the black vote in any the 1st, the 2nd, or the 7th congressional district, the answer is hell no.
Meanwhile, Illinois Republicans say Jeffries should be in Washington, not Illinois, working with Republicans to reopen government. And that, quote, J.B. Pritzker and Illinois Democrats have already gerrymandered Illinois to hell and back, creating one of the most partisan maps in history. While Democrats continue to play partisan games, the Illinois Republican Party will continue to fight for fair maps and representation. And joining us now is Elizabeth Grossman from Common Cause Illinois, a group that has long advocated for taking the politics out of map making. Elizabeth, Illinois already gets pretty poor grades for their politically drawn maps that have given Democrats a 14-3 advantage. Is further, quote unquote, gerrymandering the right way to go?
Yeah, as you said, Common Cause has stood against gerrymandering for a long time. We know that it hurts voters if elected officials are deciding who their voters are rather than the other way around. We have consistently given Illinois poor marks when it comes to gerrymandering. We have developed 6 fairness criteria for this unprecedented time. We understand that a lot of states are responding to what started in Texas, which was such a brazen partisan play that, we understand that it doesn't make sense to be so inflexible as to say that every state on its own must continue to adhere to independent maps or not to gerrymander or not to redistrict, but that if they are going to do this in a responsive way, we urge them to do it in a way that implements our fairness criteria, which we believe create the safeguards to allow them to do it in the fairest way possible if they're going to be drawing new maps at all.
What about the notion that 2 wrongs don't make a right? I mean, clearly, if the Democrats in charge are going to draw out a Republican district, it does disenfranchise some voters, doesn't it?
To be very clear, we are against partisan gerrymandering. We are against racial gerrymandering. Gerrymandering is wrong. However, in this case, we are dealing with one political party that is deciding to do this affirmatively. And in certain states, they're acting responsively. This is not something that we are going to be promoting, but it is something that we will not oppose so long as our fairness criteria are met.
What about, one of the concerns is that it could dilute African-American representation in some congressional districts that have majority African-American residents. Is there a way to do this that it wouldn't dilute that vote?
I haven't seen the maps yet, but I will say that diluting the political power of Black voters, of Latino voters, of any racial minority absolutely does not adhere to our fairness criteria. That is something that is very important. One of the criteria is also that there will be public participation. I think it's good that, as Governor Pritzker said earlier today, that this doesn't have to be rushed because the process needs to have public participation. That's how we know that people's interests and groups' interests are going to be protected. But absolutely, if it's diluting Black political power, that would not meet our criteria, and we would oppose such maps.
All right, Elizabeth Grossman from Common Cause Illinois. Hope to talk to you again. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And when we come back, some on-the-ground perspectives from the immigration-related chaos this weekend.